Hello, everyone. My name is Lora Al Ahmad, and I'm a pianist and a composer from Sofia, Bulgaria, having studied piano with the amazing Professor Pavlina Dokovska and Professor Vladimir Valyarovich at Manes here in New York. And I recently had the honor to become a board member at the Bulgarian Concert Evenings in New York. And this is actually the first concert that I'm organizing. And I feel especially happy that I don't only get to present my works, but my fellow French composers here works that, well, I must say they're really fascinating. And we have had a lot of joy practicing them. It really means a lot to me that I'm able to support my fellow composer colleagues and share your beautiful music with the world. And actually, most of our pieces will be world premieres. And I can't wait for our audience to know more about you. But before that, fun fact, we have, I'd say, a lot in common. But most importantly, I think we should mention that we're all students of the incredible, let's say it together, Lowell Lieberman.
Yeah, Lieberman, Lowell Lieberman.
Yeah. And so, Schachar, let's start with you. You're an Israeli composer. And why don't you tell us more about yourself and your journey to New York City?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm from Israel. I'm in New York for the last 2 years. I'm studying my master's degree at Manes as well with Lowell Lieberman. And before that, I lived my whole life in Israel, mostly as an interdisciplinary musician. So I started by learning to play the piano and the cello, and I'm a singer. And all this background, I think, really brought me to the point of composing this music, which is also with a lot of melodies and lyrical lines, but a lot of rhythm as well. I think I'm inspired by both classical music and contemporary music. So it's all my world coming together, this music. So I'm really excited about it.
That's great. I think we have that in common, me and you, with the rhythm and sort of looking into our background and really incorporating these elements into our music. That's really great. And what about you, Hyejin? You're a Korean composer. So,
okay. First, I want to say, thank you so much for having me. Yeah. First of all, I grew up in Korea, influenced mostly by church music, and I have played the piano and performed since I was 6. Because I was also very interested in theory and composition, I decided to major in music composition at college. After I graduated college in Korea, I got married and moved to the state to study deeper in composition. My husband and I first came to Bloomington, Indiana, then moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where I got a master's degree at Boston Conservatory. And finally, we came to New York City. I was so blessed to study with Professor Lowell Lieberman at Manes. Here in New York, now I compose, teach, and perform, and everything for music. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
How do you manage having, you have 2 children, I believe.
Yeah.
They're really sweet. But how do you manage having a family and having to compose and do all these things? You're like a Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it was very hard, but now my daughters are growing more. So now she's 9 and 6 years old. So they can do themselves for many things now.
That's great. I think I met them probably when you were still at Manes 2 years ago. And I remember them. They came to one of the composer concerts and they listened. They were so good. Wow.
I had to say that, be quiet.
But they listen. Yeah. They listen. So one day in the future, I hope if I have kids that they behave the same way at concerts.
Good.
And let's talk about, I think that people will love to hear more about our composition process, what inspires us, how do we come up with these ideas? Because the question that I feel like I get the most is, how did you do that? And then I'm like, I don't know myself exactly how. It's just very difficult to explain. So why don't we try a little bit? So what about you, Schachar? How do you sit down? Yeah, do you write on the piano? What's your process like?
So first, I totally agree with what you just say, because sometimes I look at my outcomes and the finished work, and I'm surprised how I found these ideas myself. So I think my work process is changing a lot. In many times, the ideas actually comes from non-musical ideas. And for example, I work a lot with philosophical ideas, or with texts that were written by women poets, trying to bring ideas through my music. But also in many times I just start with musical motifs and then develop that in various options, and using many orchestrations. Yes, and sometimes it starts from the piano, mostly from working on the piano or the cello, also my voice, and then transferring to the computer, other instruments. So it's really nice. I'm really happy about the possibility to try on my cello, because I compose a lot for strings, and I feel very lucky to have the possibility to really check the sounds and search for the very specific technique that I want to bring in the music.
Yes, and your string writing, I must say, it's really good. Mm-hmm. It's really good. It's very interesting. And also, I find it very inspiring. One of my composition process now, I'm discovering more that actually when I perform your music as a pianist, I also learn from it, both pianistically, but also compositionally, because you guys give me all these like great ideas, and I hear different combinations, different string techniques, and I know that you're a string player, so of course you know more about me, more than me, I mean, because sometimes it's hard when you don't play the instrument to know all of its possibilities. So I feel, yeah, it's often stressful, like, oh, is this double stop possible? Like, because I want to write in a way that's comfortable for the performance, because I also come from the performance practice, and that for me is very important. But also I want to say that your piano writing is really good, even though you're not a pianist. And that's very rare, I can tell you. I was like, oh, this really fits in his hand. And Hyejin's music as well, but she is a pianist. And yeah, it's very difficult. The things that you wrote, very exciting, but it's very much doable and fits in the hand, and it's really good. So yeah,
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, that's great. And what about you, Hyejin? Do you use the piano when you compose as a pianist? Because I think that's very common.
Yeah, mostly, I compose on the piano. Depending on how I start, every piece is formed differently. So it is almost like I'm still in progress to find the perfect way to create a composition. I used to look for inspiration with programmatic matters before I start to compose. But nowadays, I try not to limit my compositional direction to any matter, which makes me to focus more on following musical gestures and developments of the piece itself. So my usual composition process would be setting up the instrumentation first, and then researching about similar works. Second, sketching the motif and developing with it. Then I wrote my piano quartet of this program by following this process, which the piece gets the title after all the works are completed. In contrast, for string duo for this concert, I came up with the title first, then I got the motif from its alphabets, then developed it. Now, when I was studying with Dr. Lieberman, he told me, write what you want to hear, do what you want. So which became my compositional motto, my composition process. I keep reminding myself of his words and always look for what I want. I might not be able to find what I really want and want to hear through my own music. But this journey would always lead me to accept new ways to create music. Yeah, so that's it.
Great.
Yeah,
he definitely teaches a lot of important points. Another one that's really important for me is that he's really adamant about sticking with the material you already have. So you don't go from one thing to another constantly, because there's so many possibilities. Once you come up with a theme or a pattern or any compositional idea, there's so much opportunity to develop that. And this is where composition work starts. And it's similar to cooking, actually. I don't know about you, but I really love cooking and find the similarities between composing. Because, for example, you have flour, it's one thing, but you can do so much things with it, right? So, yeah, that's great. And I also wanted to ask you how you're dealing with the current situation and what it means to you to be a woman composer, these days.
I feel like in these days there is a large discussion about it, and I see more and more women composers. So I'm really happy about it. I feel that this world has been too manly for too many years, and I feel that our voice as women is extremely important and significant in this musical world. And but at the end of the day, when I compose, I don't see my compositions as a woman. I'm not creating my works. I'm just creating myself, I guess. But it's too important for me to bring myself, I guess, also as a woman, with just the character that I feel that I can bring. So I believe that for someone outside it might be unique or different, but I just trying to bring myself to the music.
Yeah, exactly. It's more about, I think, equality right now. Not that we should compare ourselves like, oh, this piece should get played because it's a woman. No, it's about really having very much equal opportunities. And I think that's really becoming the case nowadays. Unfortunately, historically, it wasn't like that. So that's why this idea of women composers, I think it needs an extra push. But that's, I don't view it, or I don't try to do it in any way that doesn't equally appreciate man composers. So, yeah. What about you, Hyejin?
For me, during this pandemic period, especially for composer, I was thinking, it's good to work at home, and I can think more deeply. Then when I was studying in the States, I was very surprised because of the ratio between men and women students in the composition department. Only a few women composers in American colleges, while a few male composers in Korean colleges. I believe grew up in that environment affected me to have questions. Why there are lots of men composers? Is this because of the gender inequality or circumstance difference, such as pregnancy and other issues in the family, or stereotype, or just physical difference? I still don't really understand the root cause of the issue, but I totally understand the struggles and difficulties of pursuing a career as a mother. I too had a feeling of losing my dream when I had to fully take care of my children when they were baby. And a lot of women may have to abandon their dream due to their circumstances. But I am a firm believer that there are no advantages or disadvantages to being a man or woman composer because of the composition is not physical works, but a thinking and creative process. So there are many great women composers like Clara Schumann, Amy Beach, Eun-Suk Chin, she's a Korean, and many others. So I wish this kind of program would encourage more women composers. It seems to have a certain cohesion to me. Yeah, very thankful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that we're lucky in that sense because many women, they have different experiences, and for some of them to be musicians or composers, not that composers are not musicians, but you know what I mean. It's not even thinkable because of the circumstances and what's expected of them in the society. For example, even take me, I'm from, my father is Jordanian. And it's pure luck because when I was a child, there were talks about perhaps my family moving in Jordan. Now I can tell you, if I moved to Jordan when I was a child, I would never been able to go to music school, become a pianist. I don't think so. So it's really luck. And sometimes I think about it and I was like, yeah, I am lucky and I should do something about it and help others in some ways that I can. And yeah. Well, that was great. I'm sorry if there's construction going on in my neighborhood. I hope it wasn't too loud. But thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for organizing this evening.
And I'm so excited to play your music. I'm enjoying it so much. And I'm very happy that, all of our works will be presented. That's very exciting. So thank you. Thank you a lot.